Welcome to the Saturday in Athens podcast. I'm your host, Seth Saunders, joined as always by my co-host, James Kim. Brother, you were down for the count last week, had to call in a late sub and get Uncle Frank to come in your stead. Are you well? Has Western medicine got you back upright?
I'm doing better. It's been a rough 10 days, man. This weather's kicking my butt, but man, last week was highly entertaining with football. I'm not going to complain about being sick and watch football for 12, 14 hours, and nothing wrong with that. But I think this weekend's shaping up to be better.
Yeah, man. It's going to be. I said earlier this week on social media that this college football season is the gift that keeps on giving. And that is absolutely true. I feel like every week it's just your expectation is something brand new could happen. It just seems like everything is wide open. Everything is out there for the taking and nothing is predictable. Like, how many times does a game like that Oregon-Ohio State game actually live up to all the hype and the building? And that game couldn't have been any better or any more entertaining. Like, it was incredible. And then you swing and have that game on Saturday night that was equally as good. It's just, God, man, it's just been so good all season long. And then, like, I feel like how it's been all year, you have a game like Alabama, South Carolina, where you're kind of writing it off like, oh, yeah, Alabama going to take South Carolina to the woodshed. And then it's like, holy smokes, is South Carolina about to beat Alabama in Bryant-Denny? And,
Yeah.
dude, it's just been, God, it's been an incredible season.
No, it's been great. And talking about the Ole Miss LSU game, I literally went to sleep. I fell asleep when LSU had the ball down by 20. It was 20-16, and they went for it. It was fourth. They had like 4th and 9, and the last thing I remember is that they 3rd and 9, they didn't get it, and it was like 3 minutes 57 seconds left, give or take, something like that. And that's the last thing I remember. And I woke up like a couple hours later and Sports Center was on and LSU had won. And I'm like, but it was in overtime. I'm like, wait, what did I miss? Like, it was just, I passed out. And oh man, so I rewound. Luckily, I was still on the same channel, so I was able to rewind it to see the end of the game. Man, what a finish that was.
God, unbelievable, man. I mean, look, tough look if you're an Ole Miss fan, tough look if you're Lane Kiffin. I mean, I think, in all honesty, it's all perspective now. I mean, if they hadn't lost the Kentucky game, I don't think anybody is probably one way or the other about this game. Because, like, look, you got to go to Death Valley on a Saturday night. It's one of the, if not the toughest environment in college football. And so them losing a tight game like that late, you know, you kind of just go, well, that's what happens, right? And 12-team playoff, they'll still be in the dance. Well, now, homie, it's a whole different narrative. Now it's, they're on the fringe, I think, now. And if Georgia goes down there and beats them and they're sitting there with 3 losses, I don't know, man. I don't think they get in the dance. I really don't, especially given how balanced I think the rest of football has been. And granted, I think the SEC is very, very good and deserves to have probably more seats at the table. And when I say more, I'm thinking like 4 is what I see. But I don't know, man. They put themselves in a tough spot. And look, Tennessee's about to be in the same position if Alabama beats them Saturday and then they lose to Georgia, right? So I feel like almost overnight last Saturday or over the last 2 weeks with what happened with Tennessee when they played Arkansas, dude, they damn near lost to Florida. I mean, if Graham Mertz hadn't gotten hurt, they probably would have lost to Florida, which is crazy to say. And God, man, I feel like there were a bunch of injuries this week, and I hate it. I hate it. I tell you this all the time, is my least favorite thing. I hate it when these kids can't play because of injuries like this. And, like, dude, Graham Mertz probably never going to play college football again. And so, stinks, man. I hate it. Especially that was non-contact. Like, I don't know. I hate to see that. But yeah, let's
completely off topic. Non-contact injury. Did you see the Avery Johnson injury for K-State?
Yeah.
You expect non-contact knee, patella, Achilles injuries. I've never seen a non-contact oblique injury before.
Yeah, and dude, obliques are no fun.
No, I mean,
No
I
fun.
know. I've never seen it like that. Like, I mean, I've seen it like, throwing in with the hit. I've just never seen it like that. I mean, that looked bad.
Dude, that Big 12 race is crazy too,
Yeah.
because there's 4 teams sitting at the top there that have a legitimate chance to play in the Big 12 title game. And that conference is just wide open. And I feel like we texted about this. You're looking at now a SMU team that it was SMU we were texting about, right? That lost to BYU,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
15? And I think
Yeah.
at the time it was like,
Ugly game.
tough loss for SMU. And now as the season's progressing, BYU sitting there undefeated and looking a strong undefeated. And you're going, wait a minute. If you pull up SMU's schedule and you kind of roll through, you start going, hold on now. SMU could finish 11-1 legitimately. And their one loss is to potential undefeated Big 12 champion BYU. And you're going,
Yep.
SMU fixing to get themselves in the playoffs. Like, it's just crazy. And that's what's been awesome about this season thus far is you've got all these teams that are just right in the mix for dancing time come December. And it's just going to be electric to watch. And I think if you're people that advocated for the 12-team playoff on the CFP side, you're just dancing a jig right now. Because what was the gripe? Oh, this regular season's not going to matter. Not going to matter anymore. And you could argue, I think, thus far, the regular season has mattered more than it's mattered in a long time. I mean,
it's been more exciting. I will say that it's not been more exciting. Is I will say more on the top end, because you would think like the conference champion is whoever wins the conference championship game is going to get an automatic bid. So as far as automatic bid, like if you get like a Cinderella automatic bid, like that type of thing will be exciting. Like someone who's not supposed to be in the conference championship game, that type of thing. We'll be seeing March Madness. That'll be exciting. But as far as the 5 through 12 or 5 through 11, because the group of 5 is going to get in, that's making this really exciting, I think.
Well, dude, I mean, just look at this deal that we got going, which I think everybody had brought up this scenario with Michigan, Ohio State. And the one that nobody fathomed, nobody even considered in the realm of possibility is now square on the table halfway through the season. And that is Army and Navy are undefeated. They could very realistically end up playing each other in the American Athletic Conference title game for a shot to go to the playoffs, okay? So undefeated, the winner is going to the playoffs in this hypothetical. And then after the playoff field has been announced on Sunday, they got to turn right back around and play again on Saturday for nothing outside of history, pride, and legacy, right? And so, dude, it's stinking bananas, and I am rooting for it 100%. Like, I need them both to go into the AAC title game undefeated like I need air.
I have a question for you, though. Like, devil's advocate, let's say they're both undefeated going into the AAC title game.
Uh-huh.
Is that winner going to be the best group of 5 champion over a 1-loss Boise State team with their only loss being a 3-point loss against Oregon? If Oregon continues the way that Oregon's going, like, let's say Oregon wins out and loses the Big Ten title game.
Yep.
Or they win out. I mean, either way, either one of those scenarios.
Here's the thing, okay? In the scenario, this is what's tough for both of those teams, all right? If Navy and Army are both undefeated in the AAC title game, what's both of their hang your hat on wins?
Each other.
No. Who do they both play? Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
And so if they go undefeated, Notre Dame finishes the season at best with a 9-3 record. And so their argument to the committee is, I'm undefeated and I beat Notre Dame. And it's like, well, okay. But to your point, I think what's going to happen in that committee room is you're going to have conference champion that's undefeated and conference champion with the best loss in America if Oregon wins out like we anticipate they will. Okay, which is no guarantee. No guarantee that happens. Okay.
No.
But let's say they did, then yeah, Boise State has the best loss in America. I don't think that's super debatable.
And let's be realistic. Boise had a realistic shot to win that game. That was a very well played game by Boise State. I mean, that special teams won that game for Oregon. I mean, you know, I know it's a 3-phase game, but
Boise's nuance too is they have a main character. I think that's the other thing. The other teams don't have a main character. Boise fixing to have a Heisman Trophy winner. And I'm saying that fully serious. That's not like, oh, that'd be a pie in the sky thing. Like, I think if the season ended tomorrow, you got a hard time giving the Heisman Trophy to anybody but Ashton John T. I really do. He's been unbelievable. And so, I mean, dude, he legitimately, if he continues as he has continued and they give him the carries, he could make a little run at Barry's record.
Oh, he's on pace right now to break it. I sent you something. I think it was Monday or Sunday or Monday. He's on pace right now, if just in the regular season, to break Barry's record with the amount of carries he's got so far and yards.
And they won't say it does, but that matters. Like, they're not going to not put Heisman Trophy led Boise State, that's the Mountain West champ, with a narrow loss to hypothetically number 1 Oregon. They're getting in the playoffs. That's no question.
Well, let's also talk another part of this. Boise would have a shot against whoever they're going to play in the first round. Sure. Army, Navy, maybe not. Most likely not. They're not going to say they're going to get dump trucked, but it's more than likely they'll be 2 touchdown underdogs.
Yeah, I think it's different math, but I think in a lot of ways, though, if you're really having an honest conversation, Boise's weapon is the ground game, and that's Army's weapon, and that's Navy's weapon. And so I do think the interesting piece with Army, and I talked about this with Frank last week, is, and I think you and I have talked about it too, defensively, dude, they're a top 10 scoring defense right now. And so that's the one wrinkle I think that's there. Now, look, I'm very cognizant that they have not played world beaters thus far, but still, if you're through half the year and you're giving up less than 10 points a game, you're doing something right. And they ain't having no problem scoring on people. So I don't know, man. They have an interesting game on Saturday. That's one of the games I circled. You know, they're in that noon slate and they play, let's see, East Carolina.
East Carolina, yeah.
It's at home and it's on TV, and your boy plans on watching it. I mean, I'm fascinated by them. I told you, I posted it. We're adopting them. They're our squad. Black Knights are our squad this year.
They're a fun team.
It was the Roadrunners for a long time, and the Black Knights have taken them over. All right, well, we'll talk about all that. But, dude, we got to talk about, look, the Dogs are in another just colossal game on Saturday. You know, they had a huge night game in Tuscaloosa. Obviously, things went, I don't even want to talk about it. It was just bad. I mean, we didn't really talk about this. I do want to talk about it with you because you weren't on the timing in lineup for you being on the week after. I know how the narrative ended up being is that, like, everybody feels great because they came back and Georgia's going to be fine and XYZ. And, dude, I was texting you after, and, like, even if they had won, would you have felt any different about how they looked? Because what I told you was I wouldn't. I'd still have all the same concerns. Like, how do you come out and get boat raced 28-0 in a game of that magnitude with 2 weeks to prepare? Like, that's concerning. And so, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on that game, but let's just say that was not their best showing. And I know they made this run at the end, but, like, to me, all I think about when I think about that game is them laying an egg. That's it. That's all I think about. Because that's essentially what lost them the game, is laying the egg for the first, whatever it was, 25 minutes.
Yeah, my response to you with that was I would have felt relieved.
Yeah.
If they had won. I wouldn't have felt good. I would have felt relieved. And I don't like this positive narrative around the Dogs from how they looked in the second half, because they made great halftime adjustments. They shut them down in the second half. I don't think Alabama let up in the second half. I don't think Alabama changed anything they did in the first half. They were just like, we're gonna come out, we're gonna do the exact same thing, and it's gonna work, and we're just gonna continue to blow the doors off them. Georgia came out, they made halftime adjustments, and they came out, and let's be realistic. They weren't really effective most of the third quarter. I mean, that first touchdown drive was 15 plays, like 8-9 minutes. They had to complete, do 3 fourth downs. I mean, it was methodical. So, it really wasn't until that last like 17 minutes where they really kicked it up into high gear. So I don't know. I wasn't as overly optimistic about it as most of Dog Nation was. With that being said, I think they can learn a lot from that game. I think they will learn a lot from that game.
Yeah.
That's kind of my whole opinion about the Alabama game, and I want to put it to bed. I think the Auburn game was a much more complete game. Auburn is much better than people give them credit for. Auburn turns the ball over a ton. You take Auburn's turnovers away, and I know that's a big part of the game, but they are a very good offense, and they didn't do very much against the Dogs' defense, considering the fact, let's look what Mississippi State did last week. Mississippi State just, realistically, once they got down and once they had to throw the ball, they were just throwing the ball all over the yard. And I don't know if that was the fact that we were running man, which it seemed like that's what we were doing, and we could not guard their wide receivers to save our life, or if we were busting assignments or what, but they were just running butt naked all over the field. And I do not understand this. We cannot get pressure when we blitz. I understand with Michael being hurt, we don't have the dudes to put pressure with just 3-4 guys. I get that. But when we blitz 2-3 guys, how are we not getting anyone getting pressure? I don't understand that. I don't know if it's a scheme thing. I don't know if it's just people missing the assignment, missing where they're supposed to go, or we're just all getting bunched up in the middle of the line. We're not playing world beater offensive lines when it comes to, Auburn and Mississippi State. The only person who's consistently got pressure this season is Jalen Walker. Yeah. TID's come on the last couple of games. He's getting pressure. He got home a couple of times against Kentucky. He got home once against Auburn. But he's getting pressure, but he's not getting home. Jalen Walker's the only one who's gotten consistent pressure all season. That's it. And I don't understand.
I think part of the issue too has been when they have gotten home, they're not bringing guys down. I mean, there was multiple times they got home with Jalen, they couldn't bring him down. There was multiple times they got home last weekend, they couldn't bring Van Buren down. I just think it's one of these things where they got to finish, and I think that's been the problem on defense. We have talked about, and it's been obviously talked about across, I think, most of Dogs followers, is that the secondary's been bad. And I don't disagree with that. They have been, okay? They've not been good. We do not have currently a shutdown corner. I mean, not even close. But I will say that should be layered with your point that we're not getting pressure. And so it's a deadly duo. Like, look, if you got guys that struggle in the back end, you then also can't ask them in the same breath to cover for 7 seconds, right? Like, something's got to give there. Like, the full defense has to help each other out. And so they got to fix that. You and I have talked about this a ton online and offline, but I do think the benefit of Quinn Ewers being healthy and being back is look, man, he's not going to beat you with his feet. And so I'm not saying he can't extend plays and make some things happen and do some things off schedule, but it's not going to be like Jalen where he's going to gash you and change the game with it. Or even I thought Van Buren did a good job extending stuff and being slippery and those type things. And Quinn's not going to do that. So I think that's a benefit on the pass rush side. Dude, even Brock, I felt, moved the pocket enough and moved outside the pocket well enough and scrambled where he gave them some issues in that Kentucky game where they couldn't get off the field. And look, man, that's been their problem. They can't get off the field. They're just super, super average on third down. I think they sit in the middle of the pack nationwide when it comes to opponents' third down conversion. So that's part of the problem. I want to talk to something else with you that I think is going to be front and center on Saturday night, and it's part of the reason why I brought up the Alabama game, because I think Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer exploited it masterfully, and it's something that if you have watched them over the course of Kirby's tenure, it gives them problems, and that is pre-snap motion, homie. And there is nobody in America that is more of an artist with pre-snap motions than Steve Sarkisian. And so I just want to bring out some things that I think we should all look for on Saturday night and things I think Sark is going to try to take advantage of and exploit. And look, man, if you really go back and watch the game in Tuscaloosa in 2020, they did a lot of it that night too. But dude, Kirby and Glenn, and even when Dan was there, man, they had problems with pre-snap motions and the different things they're wanting to do. And I'm going to tell you a couple things that Sark generally likes to do from a pre-snap motion perspective and kind of how he layers different concepts in doing that. And then I'm going to point you straight back to a play in the Alabama game that mimics it perfectly. Okay? You feel good about that?
Exactly. I know exactly what play you're going to, too.
Okay. All right.
I know exactly what play you're going to.
Let's build this narrative, okay? One of the things he loves to do is formations into the boundary, okay? Which shorthand, a lot of folks in football would just call FIP, all right? Formations into the boundary. So short side of the field, you're stacking most of your skill players to that side, and then you're leaving either a lone receiver to the field side, or maybe you go nub where you have no receiver and just the tight end, right? And Sark's going to do that a bunch. And what you're hoping to do with that is you're trying to slide a bunch of the defenders, 8 to 9, to that boundary side, and then you leave all this field space open for that field wide receiver, or conversely that nub tight end, to move and play in. Or if you wanted to get even more creative and swing the back out of the backfield, maybe run a wheel, something like that, right? You have a lot of open space to play with because you generally have one corner over there and maybe a safety and help, okay? And so he's outstanding, Sark is, at game planning space for his playmakers. And I think what's a little scary about their skill position players is you've got the freshman Ryan Wingo, you've got Isaiah Bond, who admittedly is probably not going to be 100%. He's dealing with that ankle injury, which in all honesty is a good thing for Georgia secondary, because I think even with 1.5 ankles, he's still a problem. So something to look at there. And then they've got Matthew Golden. So you got 3 guys that, dude, are playmakers that he can kind of mess around with and put at that kind of isolated field spot and get him in space. And then the other one, man, this is the one that in all honesty makes me the most nervous, is Gunnar Helm. I think he is going to do some things with Gunnar Helm. I mean, brother, 6'5", 250, and dude can move, all right? And 21 grabs, 311 yards, they feature him. So look for those things, okay? Look for that formation into the boundary, and then Sark exploiting that, trying to get guys in space, and then how we react to that. Because I think what we've had problems with in the past is figuring out whose responsibility is what, and then doing something with it, all right? So let's start with that as a base, all right? Doing formations into the boundary. And then let's build off of that. Let's add another layer to that. Let's talk about orbit motions, all right? Sark, maybe more than anybody in America, loves the orbit motion, something that you see a ton with the academies, where you're taking wideouts or slots and you're wrapping them back around the cornerback to the quarterback to the opposite side of the field to create some coverage problems, to create miscommunications. Dude, they are going to do a bunch of that. And then they're going to disguise it like it's going to be an orbit, and they're going to do return motions where the guy goes halfway and then goes back and then runs his route as soon as he gets back to his spot, right? So they're going to be constantly moving, constantly shaking. And then one of the other things they're going to do from a motion perspective is when they do have more than one guy on the field side, they'll do some motions to stack, where you're going to have your slot guy on the hash, and then you'll motion in right to the guy on the hash, and then they'll do some crossing routes and things of this nature to get coverages confused. So I bring all that up to then wrap us back into the Alabama game, and I want to talk about the Jam Miller play, okay?
I knew that's what play you were going to talk about. I knew it. I knew exactly when this started, that's what you were going to talk about.
If we had the nuance and you and I knew what we were doing and could put tape up, I would show you on the Jam Miller play. Guess what formation it was? Formation in the boundary. And Jam Miller does he looks like he's going to do a return motion, right? He stutter steps like he's going to do a return motion, and he completes
Allen gets stutter stepped, and then he just runs a wheel.
He does a full orbit motion and just lets it rip. And granted, I thought CJ recovered, and I mean, look, Jalen threw an incredible ball, but still, it gives them problems. So you don't think Sark's pulling that tape and going, oh, baby. So, man, I just am locked in to see from an offensive game planning perspective what Sark has cooked up for this defense, which has admittedly been on skates in big time scenarios. And especially with that asset pool they have, man, I'm nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs about it, brother. I'm telling you, dude, we talked about this, and I've told you about it since then. That night in Tuscaloosa in 2020 is one of the best called games ever, I think. Sark was in his bag all night long. I mean, dude, they had guys running wide open all night. And, like, I'm concerned if it's not evident.
Yeah. I think the way we have to combat this is I don't think we can play much man. I think we have to play too deep. I think we can play too deep under, or we can play, cover 3. We have to play zone and hope for the best. We don't have the eye discipline to play man with this offense. We just don't.
Well,
not yet.
You bring up the word I wanted you to bring up. That's eye discipline. This team has horrendous eye discipline. Horrendous. And that's what makes me so nervous, dude, because it literally plays right into what Sark wants to do. And, like, I want you to watch, too. Like, they're going to come out first drive, and they're going to have motion packages they're doing, right? And then he's going to build that throughout the game.
Yep.
And he's gonna do something in the first quarter because he's setting up something he's going to pull out the bag in the third quarter. And it's all going to be motion-based on the same look. Like, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them do some return motions and then they run some, like, quick hit bubble screens, right? Because you've got defenders in a compromised position and there's 2 guys to block, and then the guy who's getting the bubble, his defender's on skates because you get the motion piece, right? And so he's got 5-10 yards free run to run the bubble. But so then watch him come back to it, run the same action, fake bubble, and then it's going to be a quick pop, right? And so This is what I'm saying, man. Just watch it Saturday night, and Kirby and Glenn combating that and playing that chess match well is going to be the difference in the ballgame. You just cannot convince me otherwise. That is the matchup. It is Sark moving his chess pieces and Glenn and Kirby trying to get in the way.
It is. I'm curious of how viewers will react to this, because, I mean, let's be realistic. We talked about this earlier in the week. Not saying our defense has been barn burners, because they haven't been, but still, statistically, this is still going to be the best defense they faced this year. And if they can't run the ball, which our run defense has been pretty stout other than against Alabama, are they going to be able to do all this motion and get all this stuff going? Is he going to be able to set all this stuff up? Or are they just going to come out and just pass the ball like gangbusters?
Well, even I feel like in the Alabama game, after, say, the first 4 drives, and really, I think if you take out what Jalen did with his legs, I wouldn't say they were getting gashed in the running game, especially in the second half.
It was all Jalen. It was mostly Jalen.
I think run-wise, especially as they get healthier along the D-line, I feel much better about how the run defense looks. And look, hand up, I have been wrong in my eval of him previously. But I think Dan Jackson has been really, really good in the run game. I'm not saying that he always finishes, but he just attacks with such reckless abandon that I think it creates opportunities for the trailers to then make a play. And so, dude, I feel fine about the running piece, but I really do. Even though I do think Texas probably will have schematically the best run game they faced. And they've got kind of a 3-headed monster at running back. So they've got some weapons there. But that's not the part that concerns me. I am much more concerned with these explosives in the passing game because we're just bad at it. We've been bad since snap 1 of the Alabama game. And so that's my concern there. Now, I get all that worry and angst out to come back and tell you this. The place where I feel good, and I want to be very clear about this, I said this on Sunday, so I don't feel like I'm piggybacking on anything, and it makes me feel good because I heard somebody else say it yesterday. Reese Davis said it, and he said almost verbatim what I said Sunday night. Not that he's stealing my ideas, because he's certainly not. But it's I'm just glad that someone with some prominence pointed it out. Homie, of all the teams Texas has played this year, the best offense they've played all season is UTSA. And the Roadrunners are 67th in America, all right? Otherwise, I think 3 of the 5 offenses are outside of 110th from an offensive perspective. Their big wins, Michigan, Oklahoma, 119, 125. So, like, I do think there needs to be some perspective on this will, by far, be the best offense that Texas has had to deal with all season long. Now, that is me speaking from the perspective of them looking like second half of Clemson, second half of Alabama, and then let's say last 3 quarters of the Mississippi State game, okay? And that's also me saying Carson playing a clean football game. Dude, I tweeted this on Saturday during the game, and I feel this way, okay? You took Carson to Dallas for media days. You took Malachi to Dallas for media days. The reason that you did is because they're your 2 best players on both sides of the ball, and they're your 2 alphas, right? Well, guess what? They got to step up and be that Saturday night, okay? I'm not saying they haven't played well, because they've both played really well in spots. But what I'm saying is your best players have to play their best when it matters. And the 2 of them have got to have big games on Saturday night. Malachi has got to make some kind of play, transitional play on defense that flips the field. And Carson has got to play clean, and he's got to play confident, dude. I mean, homie, I was texting you. He looked like Rube Baker in Tuscaloosa. Homie, he had the yips. Like, he was seeing 22 people on defense. It was painful to watch. And it cannot happen Saturday night. He has got to come out and be the general and play with no fear. Because, like, look, man, physically it's all there. And, like, I understand that there have been drops in important spots, and all that's real. I'm not trying to downplay any of that. But next play, man, it's over with. Let's keep it ripping. And they have got to make something happen. So I do think their offense can put some points up. And if we can score 30, let's just say I think we win the ballgame. But I think that is the magic number. I think they got to score 30 plus. I think outside of that, we'll see. But that's what I'm looking at.
I think 30 is a realistic number. I'm not as confident in our defense, just because I don't know. Like, you see them sometimes, they go out there and you think, oh, this is the Georgia defense of old. And then they turn around for a quarter and they look like they, couldn't catch a cold. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get with this team. They're so Jekyll and Hyde with the defense. With Carson, my biggest concern with Carson is that sometimes it feels like he's trying to do a little bit too much. Like, perfect example was that interception in the end zone last week. That wasn't there. And it was like, you trust your arm just a little too much on that pass.
Dude, let me tell you something. I want to stop you real quick. You know what bothered me about that? Did you hear what he said post-game?
No, what?
He said, I probably shouldn't say this, but I thought that was pretty blatant pass interference. And I'm like, time out, dude. Hold on. Like, maybe worst throw of the year. You can't be like, yeah, I thought it was pass interference. Like, dude, come on, man. Like, I watched it live, and not one time watching it live or any of the replays, oh my God, that was pass interference.
That never crossed my mind once.
No.
Like, no. It looked like he was throwing it to the Mississippi State guy.
Like, dude, if that's what he wants to tell himself, like, more power to you, but that bothered me. I'll just put it that way.
But I feel more confident in Carson when he's playing, just seeing the field and taking what the defense is given, which he did the majority of the game on Saturday, in which he did the majority of the Auburn game. And
dude, to his credit, Saturday, he made a couple throws that were their first round throws.
I mean, that Dylan Bell throw. Oh my God.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, dude,
that might be his best throw of his career.
It was an unbelievable play. I mean, ridiculous throw, right? And then a ridiculous finish by Dylan to close it out. Like, just an electric play. But, dude, he makes a throw like that. And I think that's what's so maddening is it's there. And so when he makes the throw that he made in the end zone, you just go, dude, what are we doing? Plus, I'm pretty sure that wasn't much different than the Alabama throw. I think it was first down. Like, that's the other thing. Like, can we know down and distance here? Like, we don't need it right then. If it's not there, just get rid of it. Let's play another down. Like, I distinctly remember something Jake Fromm used to always say that I can't remember if Chaney used to tell it to him. I think it was Chaney used to tell him, look, you can't go broke taking a profit. Like, we don't always have to hit the lottery. Let's take a little profit here. Let's just take something here. Let's take something here. Let's take something here. Just keep chunking, keep gaining. And I'll also, while we're talking about the offense, okay, just because it just gets ridiculous sometimes. Can we give Mike Bobo some due for some of his play calls Saturday? I mean, homie, he made some nice schematic calls on Saturday where it was like, didn't see that one coming, Mike. That was excellent. Like, well done.
I think we might be the only ones to give him his flowers because everyone else is still like, you look at the message boards, you look at social media, like everyone still wants to fire Bobo.
Well, dude,
I'm so over it.
Well, for me, it's such a lazy intellectual argument. That's my problem with it. It's just, you're just not paying attention. I mean, I get it, okay? Like, the narrative is this whole 2 runs up the middle and blah, 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 whatever, okay? It ain't that, man. Like, you look at some of what he's doing and what he's trying to scheme and, like, man, it's there. And, like, guys are open. And there have been times, too, where stuff's been open and they just didn't hit it. Whether somebody dropped it or it was a bad throw or, like, I don't know, man. I have had no problems with, well, I'll say this. I've had no problems with what they've tried to do. And let's pivot this too. I do think a lot of this issue has also been, dude, the offensive line has not been what they should be. They just haven't been, especially running the football. How many times was Stinchcomb going to call out Ernest Green for getting his ass whipped on Saturday?
I lost count. Sorry, I'm going to go on a little tangent here. So I want to bring up the running game, and I'm not going to talk about the line a little bit. I counted 4 times, and it wasn't just one running back, where they got tackled within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage from behind because instead of just taking what's there and going forward, they tried to bounce it outside and make the big play. Just take what's there. Like, I understand, you think you have it outside, but you should not be getting caught from behind by a 300, 290, 3 to 320 pound defensive lineman from behind within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. That should not happen. Yeah. But it happened to, I know it happened to Etienne and I know it happened to Nate. I don't know if it happened to Branson because he got hurt, but it might have as well. But I know it happened to both of them, and I counted at least 4 times total.
Yeah, there's been far too much dancing. Far too much dancing.
Just take what's there.
Yep.
Like, I don't understand that. If the play's designed to go to the outside, if that's an option to bounce it out, fine. But there's no way that happens all the time. Like, the holes are there more times than not. 4 and 5 yards, just like you said, can't go broke taking a profit.
Can't go broke.
4 and 5 yards. Baby. 4 and 5 yards is there. Take it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think too that's all a patience thing. That's just a look. Don't do too much, man. Just take what we got. If it's 3 yards, take 3 yards, and then we'll live to play another down. But don't put us behind the sticks. Like, we can't have 2nd and 12. I mean, it changes everything. Changes what we're going to call. Changes what personnel package we're going to have. Like, dude, it just flips all of it.
And this is not saying that the line played good because I'm not defending the line. I'm talking about specifically those 4 plays that I counted, and it's happened multiple games, but it was maddening on Saturday. Like, it was driving me absolutely nuts because at that point we were up 24 and we're trying to like kill some clock, and we get 2nd and 11, 2nd and 12. We can't do anything. We got to pass.
Well, I'm gonna throw something else at you because you know that we've been doing underdog fantasy this year. And doing some higher lowers. I mean, right up our alleys. A higher lower is pretty much made for your boys. So these games on Underdog Fantasy are just built for that. And so I'm going to throw a name at you for this weekend for a little higher lower, and that's Lawson Lucky Catches, okay? I think, like, the last number I saw for higher lower was maybe like 2.5 or something like that. Ooh, I'm going to tell you something, brother. The higher is – I'm liking it because I think he's getting more involved each week. And so we might have to package that with a couple other higher lowers on Saturday.
Better be higher.
Maybe Arian, we mix that in, because like I feel like his catches and yards are amping up since Alabama, and they're taking deep shots with him. So I like all that. And so we've enjoyed it a bunch, and I think you guys will probably enjoy it too. And look, man, making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code SAP, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SAP to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. You must be 18 or older. Unless you're in Alabama or Nebraska, then you must be 19 or older. You must be 19 or older in Colorado for some games, and you must be 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. You also must be present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. This offer is void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text Next Step to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK, or text HOPE New York 467-369. So, dude, Lawson Lucky, I feel like we've both talked about, is a name and somebody where he's evolving. Like, he is becoming a guy you can start game planning some looks for. And I just think physically he is a problem. He is a mismatch waiting to happen. And so I think also, probably most importantly, they seem to be getting more comfortable with him week to week. And so I don't know, man. I just think they have got to get the ball in his hands, because I think he can be a problem. I still am a little bit at a loss as to what has transpired with Oscar. It's just nothing this season has gone for Oscar like I anticipated. I thought he would be featured, and I thought he would be one of these guys, 4 or 5 catches a game. Dude, I'm not in no way, shape, or form did I think he would in any way resemble Brock, okay? That was never the expectation. I just thought he would look like the traditional tight end in a Georgia offense, right? Where
Isaac Nauta.
Yeah, Isaac Nauta. That's a great comp. I think that's actually a really good comp. Although I do think he's probably a better blocker than Isaac was, but
he's also a little faster. Yeah,
a little faster. But yeah, I think that's a really what I was thinking about from a scheme perspective. It's just a guy where he's going to be an outlet on 4 or 5 plays. He's going to get some touches and have the ability to make a big play here and there. And dude, it just has not happened. I can't figure it out. I don't even think it's the 4 or 5 catches. I think it's he's not even getting 4 or 5 looks. He's getting maybe 1 or 2. I mean, let's put it this way: the tight ends together, I don't even think are getting 4 or 5 looks a game between the two of them, which is just baffling to me. Maybe that's because we're doing the screen game so much to extend the run, because the running game's been so putrid, and that's why that's kind of taken the tight ends out of it. I don't know. I mean, I really have no explanation for it, but I'm looking for reasons. Let me ask you this too, because I have wondered if this has been a part of it. I think, because this is probably true for play callers and for the offensive room, in addition to players themselves, when you lose guys like Brock and like Ladd, where you just kind of know, look, we're going to feature everything around these 2 guys, and we know they're our guys. That's who we're going to count on. And then you transition to this, we are the sum of our parts model, which I think we would all agree is what this year is. I think the expectation was, hey, look, we've got Dylan, we've got Dom, we've got Arian, we've got Oscar, we've got all these guys, and we'll just be able to spread it around to whoever. And in theory, I think that's fine. But man, I thought, especially in the second half this week, they looked as comfortable as they had looked, because it seemed like they just made the choice. Hey, look, Dylan and Arian are the guys. We're going to feed Dylan and Arian and have them make plays. And it seems like there's been some hesitancy to do that. And look, man, I think Dom's talent is tantalizing, and I think he's a great, great player too. But I think he's a supplemental piece. And I think the sooner that we come to grips with that and use him that way, and just focus on, okay, look, Dylan's going to be the one. We're going to feature Lawson. Like we're going to have these guys that we're building the scheme around for the week. I don't know, man. I just think it works better because I think everybody knows what they're trying to do as opposed to, well, we'll just try to spread it around. Like, there's no focus, right? Whereas last year you knew, okay, dude, Ladd's going to get like 8 looks. Brock's going to get like 8 looks. That's okay. Pick those guys and let it rip. Like, there just has to be some type of continuity week to week on who the load carriers are going to be. And that has not been the case so far this year. And, dude, I would think if I was the quarterback, that would be problematic because I don't have like, okay, this is my guy. This is the guy I'm going to work with.
Well, I do want to play devil's advocate just a little bit because if you look back to not last year, but the year before, the way that Ladd was used, because Ladd really wasn't healthy last year. So let's just take last year out of it.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, the way Ladd was used, I feel like a lot of the things that they're doing with Arian are what they did with Ladd, other than the tunnel screen. They don't really do the tunnel screen with him, but the wide receiver screens, the deep shots is a lot of what they did with Ladd. I feel like they're trying to make Arian that spot, but they don't have a replacement for Brock, which, let's face it, we knew that wasn't going to happen. And that's been the biggest difference. But I feel like Arian, at least per numbers wise, is putting up the same numbers that Ladd did the last season Ladd was healthy.
Dude, hold on, timeout. Better. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Dude, Arian, and it almost feels weird to say it out loud because I feel like it never happens, but homie.
It's got a shot. I know what you're talking about.
He's got a shot.
He's got a shot. Yeah.
He does. He could be first 1,000-yard receiver since Terrence Edwards. I mean, he's tracking that way.
Yep, I know.
And so, I don't think it's like a production thing. I think the nuance with the Arian Ladd comparison is I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's all valid. But, and this is a big but, Ladd was also the guy that could run, I'm going to stick my foot in the ground and run a 12-yard out, and we're going to get a first down, right?
That's where I was going with it. It's the 3rd and 9 comfort, I'm going to you, you're my guy. We don't have that.
Correct. That's been the problem, is that there's no, and dude, I feel like there's been a guy like that going back and going back and going back, right? Whether that was, homie, I feel like even going back to Aaron and like Malcolm Mitchell or TK or like whoever, right? There's always been a guy where, okay, we need 9. He's going to stick his foot in the ground at the 12-yard mark and we're getting the first down.
Like, I mean, Fromm had Wims and then he had Lawrence Cager and, he always had somebody. So.
Yeah, yes, that's a great point. I don't think we have that guy presently. But here's the thing, man. I think Dylan could be that. I do. I think Dom could be that in certain scenarios. But I'll tell you another one who I'm interested to see how they use him as the season progresses, and that's London Humphreys. They seem to be comfortable with him and comfortable with his grasp of the offense. Now, I will say this. London Humphreys getting mono may have been fortuitous, if for no other reason. Anthony Evans got some run that he was not slated to get otherwise. And I do think he is also a really, really spicy piece to that offensive puzzle. Like, one of him took the jet sweep on Saturday and had the big game. Like, he's got that big play pop capability. And so I do think some of the issues with him getting run is the blocking deal. I mean, I think they had issues with that. But
well, he's so talented, though. I mean, he's the guy like on, the NCAA game you would put in the slot, just change like hot route to streak, throw it deep, like 4 verts. Yeah, he's that guy. He's that guy. You need to find a way to get him the ball in space. I mean, we also ran a couple of screens with him, and he picked up 8-9 yards each time. Like, you just got to get him the ball. Like, he's a guy you just got to get the ball.
I think he is their best, in all honesty, screen asset. Like, I know they want to do it with Arian, but I'm just going to tell you, homie, Arian gives me anxiety because he drops stuff. Like, he just does. And whereas Anthony, dude, he's a returner. And okay, some guys return, some guys are returners. Anthony Evans is a returner. Like,
fearless.
Oh yeah, man. He wants to ride the roller coaster, baby, and I'm here for it Like, I love it. Love it. I mean, I think he's going to put Kirby's blood pressure like in the red level, but I love it because that's what you want. You want a guy who's just going to take chances and not have any fear about it. And so, like, essentially, homie, that's what you want in the screen game. Like, you just want a guy that needs a little sliver and he's gone. And that's Anthony Evans. So, yeah, man, I hope he is featured more. I also think, and Kirby said this out loud, so I'm hoping that's true. I think what you and I talked about was true. Nate Frazier, they did not feel comfortable with him in the pass pro game and the check game. And so he wasn't playing. They never came out and said that, but it was one of those things where we've been
Read the tea leaves.
We've been around the program long enough where you just kind of got to read between the lines of what Kirby's telling you by not telling you. But I think him getting more run, he's another one where, dude, he's just a playmaker. And, like, in some ways, you got to live with the warts for the potential glory. And let's pivot to defense. I'm going to throw another name at you that I think falls in that camp, especially for this week. Ellis Robinson got to play. He's got to play. He's going to bust, and he's going to miss stuff. I think they got to live with it because he has got the highest ceiling of any corner they got, and it's not close. It's not close. They got to play him.
I agree. I mean, at this point, the season is it's not on the line, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Well, I think it's on the line. I'll tell you why I think it's on the line. Because given how they've looked, not just Georgia, but the opponents that quote unquote were the tough teams, even if they do go 10-2, but the two losses are at Texas and Alabama, I know everybody's going to explain that away, but look, homie, we done seen Alabama 2 weeks in a row where they ain't what everybody said they were, okay?
Yeah.
We can talk around that all we want, but the facts are facts. You don't lose to Vanderbilt and almost lose to South Carolina at home if you are what they said you were, all right? So that loss gives me more concern each week we get further along in the season. Whereas, dude, if they can go into Austin and play a complete football game and kind of put a flag in the ground and say, America, we still here, baby. It still comes to the Classic City. It just changes what this season can look like. And you know I am not a midseason champion crowner. That's not my thing. That's why I love the 12-team playoff. Because think about that 07 team. They got dump trucked in Knoxville.
Oh, my God.
And looked nothing like a championship contender. Whereas in today's scheme, they're in the dance. And so all I'm saying is that let's just say from a morale perspective, it would be a big deal for them to go there. And I'm not even say they have to win, okay? But if they lose, they got to lose like Ohio State lost to Oregon, right? Like where you go, yeah, they lost, but they're one of the best teams. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Nobody left watching that game in Eugene and went, oh, yeah, Ohio State doesn't belong. You went, oh, shit. Oregon and Ohio State are real. Like, they're going to be there. And those are teams you're going to have to beat. And that's kind of what I want to see Saturday is, can we play a full game and look like a competent football team with no dumb penalties and no busts and, like, just be locked in? Because that has not happened anytime this season. Yeah, it hasn't. And it's been irritating. It's irritating to watch. And I say that to then say we have been beyond spoiled, okay?
No kidding.
So we are speaking as the spoiled only children.
Yes. Yes, that is very true. I mean, I'll still take this over, 15 any day of the week.
Yes.
15 was a dumpster fire.
Okay, last thing on this, and then I want to talk about some of the other games before we wrap up. Okay. Spread is up to Texas, I think, -5.5, some books.
I've seen it low as 4.5, up to 5.5, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the sharps are flowing towards Texas, and that number keeps hopping. I mean, I don't really pay that much mind. I think that's a valid number given how both teams have looked thus far and the fact that it's at DKR. Like, I think that's a fair number. Completely fair. I
don't mind it at 4.5. I don't mind it at 4.5. I probably would bulk if it got above. If it gets up to 6, I don't know if I like that.
Dude, I would not touch this game with a 10-foot pole.
Oh no. I'm just we're spitballing. Like I wouldn't either.
I have no feel for what's going to happen, mainly because, dude, I couldn't have felt much better about how they were shaping up going to Tuscaloosa. I just felt like, dude, this is the weekend. Like 2 weeks to prepare. Like all the pieces are there. Nick ain't there no more. Like this is gonna be the night. And like, nope. Came out and laid. I mean, the egg of all eggs. And so, dude, I just don't know. I have no idea what they're gonna look like. I'll tell you when I'll know though. We're gonna know within the first offensive drive for Texas, because we're either gonna see the defense on skates, or they're gonna look like they actually have their shoes on. And if they're on skates, I'm gonna be irritated because it's gonna be a long night. I'm just telling you.
So I got a question for you. Over under on how many beers you're going to drink in the first drive?
Well, hold on. We got to caveat this with, your boy has had 0 alcohol since December 30th, 2023.
Wow.
0 booze. Yeah.
Is that for the training or?
I think it probably started with that in mind. I just think in general, like I was wanting to see how I would feel. And like just from a health perspective, wanted to see how like locked in I could get. Your boy turned 40 this year, which messes with your head. So I wanted to see like how physically fit I could get. And like booze is just a negative in all aspects as it pertains to that, whether it's like working out or whatever it may be. So yeah, I've got no booze, and there's a non-alcoholic beer called Athletic, which I pretty much, if I'm gonna watch a game, I'll just drink a couple Athletics, which are like half percent or less. So yeah, I will have no booze.
So it's funny, we talked a couple weeks ago about how I quit Monster. I have had 2 beers in the last year since Georgia lost to Alabama last year, and that was again the Clemson week when Clemson, and didn't even really like it. I was like, yeah, it's all right,
Yeah, it's funny, man. I haven't really missed it too terribly. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say this. Your boy loves a glass of champagne or a bottle. And and there's been days where I'm like, boy, it'd be great to just rip open some champagne and let it hang loose. But no, I haven't done, and your boy also likes him a Tanqueray and tonic now. So
I will say I do miss a scotch every once in a while.
There have been some days where I've missed me a little Tanqueray, but the beer, man, I haven't. Yeah. Some of it's because of the Athletic. Like it tastes exactly the same, and so from like I think that dopamine perspective, it's like the taste is what you want it to be. And dude, you wake up the next day and you feel excellent. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, that is nice.
That's kind of become my deal, and like. It's also great because you and I have both talked about this. We are not, especially when we're in person, we are not drinkers for the game, right? Like we will have some drinks during the tailgate, but like when it's game time,
we're focused on the game.
It's lock-in time. Like I'm not having anything that's going to dull the senses. Like, dude, do you remember going to Charlotte for the Clemson game? And those 2 guys in front of us were
my God,
fall down, inebriated, drunk,
and whining the entire time.
Oh God, they were miserable, man. And they were Georgia fans. They were.
They were so miserable the entire. Why'd I pay so much money for this?
And we're like, dude, you're hammered. Like, I don't know. It was a bad look. So that's not our speed, man. I'm going to the football game to watch the football game. That's why I'm there. I can drink at home. So, yeah.
Anyway, little tangent. Sorry.
Little tangent. Yep, little tangent. So I told you, man, I'm excited about the noon slate. And it's not like these are heavy-hitting games. It's just games, given how the season has progressed, that I'm really tuned in on. So I'm going to give you one to start, which is, dude, BYU and the Cowpokes. Or actually, that's Friday night. So that's a Friday night tickler.
Yeah, Friday
BYU
night.
Late game, 10 o'clock. And, I mean, Oak State been not very good. and BYU has been the class of the Big 12 thus far. So you're looking at BYU with the opportunity to go 7-0, 4-0 in the Big 12, be in the driver's seat. Dude, and I feel like nobody is talking about BYU, and they're just sitting there at 13, minding their own business.
Yeah.
Just controlling their own destiny. I mean, just living the life. So, yeah, that's a fun one Friday night. Oregon's going to Purdue Friday night, too, which these Big Ten matchups, I can't wrap my brain around it. I just can't.
It's weird. Every time I see it, I still think Pac-12 Big Ten matchup in the middle of October. What's going on?
Same, dude.
And
it's super weird.
Let's talk about that game for just a second. First of all, Oregon should go in and just absolutely demolish them. But how is Purdue going to get up for this game at all after just the absolute mind, after that Illinois game last week?
Dude, see, I was going to go the opposite for you. I was going to go.
Really?
They haven't showed a pulse all season. Like, dude, they fired their offensive coordinator. They were so bad on offense. Yeah. And then they come out second half against Illinois like somebody put a pack of firecrackers in their ass and just raining points down everywhere. And that became one of the most entertaining games of the week last week.
Yeah, it was a fun game.
And so, like, I kind of am the opposite and they're going, hey, boys, we found something. And now the number 2 team in the country is coming to town, and they got to play us, and they ain't thinking about us, and they're thinking all they got to do is roll the Ducks out on the field.
And we ain't got nothing to lose.
We got nothing to lose. So who knows? I mean, look, Oregon should walk the dog on them. But who knows? It's Friday night football. Crazier things have happened, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, that one could be fun. Okay, so the noon slate Saturday. The first one was Miami-Louisville. This
really
is interesting just because, dude, Louisville has looked good. And Miami's obviously Miami. Got Cam Ward, who's been one of the most exciting players in college football. But, dude, Miami has looked fallible. They should have lost Virginia Tech and Cal. I mean, absent the magic of Cam Ward, they would have lost both of those games. So,
well, I'm not a blame the refs guy, but that was targeting in the Cal game. Forget the Virginia Tech thing. I'm neither here nor there on that.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that it should have remained what the call was on the field, but I understand why it was overturned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm neither here nor there on that. But the Cal, that was targeting by every letter of the law of the rule. That was targeting in that Cal game. I don't understand why that was overturned. I don't get it. That should have been targeting. That player should have been ejected. Cal should have kept the ball. The end. And Miami probably never gets the ball back, and that game's over. At that point, I don't understand that one. But yeah, so Miami has looked fallible, especially on defense. Like their defense has looked not good against some pretty rough offenses. So Louisville doesn't have the greatest offense, but they have a really good defense. So we'll see how that plays out on Saturday.
Miami's one of those teams where they sit at 6, and I think they sit at 6 because Cam Ward is the sexy centerpiece, right?
Yeah.
Whereas absent him, I think people would start to go, is Miami for real? But because they got Cam and because he's electric, everybody's going, oh, yeah, Miami. Yeah, it's great.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to give you 2 more in that noon slot that I love. First off, this is one I wouldn't have thought I'd be saying 5 weeks ago. How about Virginia Clemson?
I know.
Tony Elliott going to Death Valley. Virginia has played good football. And Clemson, since the Dogs game, has been, dude, they are putting points up everywhere. It's unbelievable. And they're also in the ACC driver's seat.
I don't know what's more surprising. Clemson looking like Clemson of old since the Dogs game, or Virginia being 4-2. I didn't think Virginia was going to win 4 games all season.
Dude, Virginia could have won that Louisville game.
They should have won that Louisville game. Look, I live in the Commonwealth. I hear about them all the time, and I'm talking to myself. So I'll continue to talk about Virginia for a little bit. And hearing about them, people are excited about the Cavs for a first time in a long time. So I hope that they continue to do well. And yeah, and I know the next game that he will want to talk about is Nebraska and Indiana. Nebraska and Indiana with Kurt Tignetti, former JMU head coach, who all he does is win. You need to Google him if you haven't, per his press conference. And freshman phenom Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes Jr. Big game in Bloomington, another noon kickoff. So I'm really excited about this game because Indiana has looked, I mean, they're 6-0. They're ranked 16th in the country. They haven't looked this good since Michael Penix was there. And Dylan Raiola in Nebraska, they're 5-1. They were ranked earlier in the season before their loss to Illinois. Probably looking to get back in the top 25. And Seth is back. Maybe. Well, folks, it appears we've had some technical difficulties for the evening, so we'll wrap it up for today. The biggest game left, I'll talk about the biggest game left on the schedule. We got Alabama and Tennessee. Look, I'll be truthfully honest with this one. I have no idea where this game is going to go. I will not be putting any real money on it. Alabama going to Knoxville, favored by 3. Obviously, last time they went there was the big shootout where Tennessee won, rushed the field, put the goalposts in the river. I have no feel for this game. Tennessee's offense, which was supposed to be, their calling card, has looked anemic the last few weeks, but their defense is for real. And Alabama, since that first half against Georgia, has not looked good really on defense, and their offense didn't look good last week against South Carolina. So it's a good game. I'm looking forward to it, but I have no feel for this one. Don't really know how it's going to play out, but I'm looking forward to it. And in my opinion, this is probably an elimination game. It's probably better for the Dogs if Alabama wins this game. It really, actually, no, I take that back. It probably doesn't matter because Georgia